Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Morpeko, and the brand new battling mechanic that arrives to the game with it that has the potential to reshape Go Battle League forever. Morpeko is an electric dark Pokemon with the moveset of Thundershock, Psychic Fangs, and Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel has the same stats as Frenzy Plant, but it has a guaranteed attack boost. And every time Morpeko throws a move, it switches forms. If it's in its full belly form, Aura Wheel is electric. If it's in its hangry form, Aura Wheel is dark. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at some practice battles in the Great League featuring Morpeko. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Morpeko into Malamar. Malamar only wins the Zero Shield. We fire off the Aura Wheel, get a guaranteed attack boost, and now, as you see, we've now switched into the hangry form. This means that our Aura Wheel is now a dark type move. This kind of mechanic has never been in the game before, and I'm incredibly excited to see all the fun things that can happen as a result. We end up playing to the CMP tie, we win the CMP, Malamar goes for the superpower. We're now 2 stages boosted, which means this is a +2 Frenzy Plant clone from a Mon that has a monster attack stat, and it's gonna easily KO Malamar as we switch back into the hangry form. In comes Clodsire. Our Aura Wheel is now a dark type, which is perfect because a ground type enters the field of play. +3 Aura Wheel, nearly one-hit KOs a Clodsire. What is this Pokemon? Oh my goodness, it is really frail. Like, it is absurdly frail. But the damage output this thing has is just absolutely sensational. Having a move that has the same stats as Frenzy Plant, that just buffs your attack every time, and an ability for that move to change typings every time you throw one of your charge moves. This is unlike anything we've ever seen in the Go Battle League. Honestly, it feels a little bit like the future is here. And now with the Kanto Marowak, I get to get a full farm down and exit with the Bone Club loaded. That will easily KO the remnants of the Clodsire, and we're able to take the win. We move to the next match, Morpeko versus Ariados. Now, Ariados does win the Zeros. Outside of the Zeros, Morpeko is able to win because an Aura Wheel barely does not knock out here. So I'm just going to go straight for the Aura Wheel. They're going to shield it. I switch into the hangry form, and now they're going to be firing off the lunge to undo my attack boost. My move is now going to be a dark type move, but I've done enough Thundershock damage that an Aura Wheel will actually now KO here. So I get to fire off an Aura Wheel, opponent is going to double shield, and suddenly my move is back to electric. The possibilities with this move are absolutely crazy. My opponent is going to make a sack swap catch on a Drapion. That just gets fully one-hit KO'd. We immediately switch back into the hangry mode, and this has got to be one of the most fun Pokemon I've tried in a very long time. I end up shielding it here. Honestly, there's no reason to shield there. I could have just let that go. It was a bit of a mistap on my part, but I was just so absolutely shocked at the fact that that Drapion got one shot. Oh my goodness. Ariados is going to fire off the lunge. I'm just going to look for a full farm down, and now I exit with a move loaded. It's Feraligatr in the back, and this game is a win. My Brave Bird is debuffed, so it will not be enough to knock out. My opponent will be able to make a last-second charge move, but just one Mud Slap from the Marowak, and we should be all done here, as the Feraligatr just does not have enough health remaining to make it to a Hydro Cannon. Morpeko versus Ariados in the next match. Okay, so we get to see the same matchup again. And now, my opponent this time is actually going to play to the CMP tie. Morpeko is absurdly glassy, which means it has a massive attack stat. We form change, we nearly one-hit KO, and I'm going to commit the shield. And now my opponent is going to switch out into Feraligatr, and arguably, I think I should have just stayed in with Morpeko and played it out, because I could have maybe baited with Psychic Fangs or gone for boost with Aura Wheel, but instead, I switch out and bring in the Moltres. I didn't think an Ancient Power would quite KO here, so I do end up just going for the Brave Bird. This way I can ensure I get the knockout. In comes a Azumarill. Can I make it to a move? No, I get KO'd. And this is suddenly looking dire, as I am down energy and down shields. My opponent is going to wait the turn, fire off the Ice Beam. I'm going to let this go. I have to try and save the shield to sweep with Morpeko. I will fire off this Bone Club. Bone Club is going to do some okay damage. They let it go, and now I bring in Morpeko. I'm going for the Aura Wheel. I want to boost up my attack as much as I possibly can. Opponent is going to commit the shield. I switch modes once again, and they're going to be firing off the Ice Beam. I think, unfortunately, I'm going to be running out of energy to try and win in this endgame. Farm up. Even a dark type Aura Wheel would KO from here, so I'm going to go for the bait. I get the shield from the opponent. I get the debuff. They reset the debuff, and my clock's just not yet up to get the catch. Azumarill knocks out with the Ice Beam. In comes Marowak. Can we get the Bone Club? We cannot, and unfortunately, we do end up losing that game. We see a lost lead in the next match, Morpeko into Arctivax. I try and switch out right away, but the game forces me to do a Thunder Shock. My opponent is going to go for the Dragon Claw right away, but in doing so, they give me a free Mud Slap. Dragon Claw is going to connect. I'm going to farm up quite a bit of energy. Bone Club would come very close to knocking out, and I think I can get a second one here. The Bone Club is going to be shielded. I make another Bone Club. That is absolutely massive. Now I can force both shields, or actually KO the Arctivax. In comes Malamar. And I could bring in the Moltres, but this is the Morpeko show. Aura Wheel does not quite KO, but it will put it into farm down range. Opponent is going to shield the first Aura Wheel, and we are officially off to the races. I will commit the shield, and honestly, after they superpower, I'm just going to look to overfarm. So I'm looking to farm up a ton of energy. Opponent switches into a Clodsire, and that's fine by me, because Aura Wheel is now Dark type. Look at the damage. We do over 50% to the Clodsire. And now I'm 2 stages boosted. I overfarm massively, playing to the CMP tie, going for the Psychic Fangs since my Aura Wheel is back to Electric. Psychic Fangs almost KOs, not quite. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do one of the most disrespectful things ever done in Go Battle League. I'm going to Thunder Shock down a Clodsire, leave with the back-to-back Aura Wheels, win the CMP tie over Malamar. That's going to get KO'd, and we're able to take the win. We move to the next match. Terrible lead, Morpeko into Clodsire. I save switch into the Marowak. Opponent is going to respond with Superior. And this is really not looking good. Superior, terrible for Morpeko, terrible for the Shadow Kanto Marowak. So this is really not great. My opponent, it's a misplay though. They make a misplay. They overfarm too much. They let me get a Rock Slide. They end up shielding the Rock Slide. And because of that misplay, maybe I'm back in this game. So that helps me out quite a bit. They're going to go for an Aerial Ace and a farm down. I'm just going to bring in the Moltres right away. They should be able to make 2 moves here. I'm pretty sure they're easily at enough for an Aerial Ace plus a Frenzy Plant. They go for the Aerial Ace, and they switch out, so they save the Frenzy Plant for later. They're going to bring in Clodsire. Clodsire, I'm going to fire off the Brave Bird on the CMP tie here. Brave Bird is going to land. Very nice damage. I will commit the shield because I do want to preserve Moltres. And now it's Morpeko time. Morpeko hits the field of play, farming up, going for the CMP tie once again. With him on as glassy as Morpeko, your energy management and counting has to be exquisite. In comes Superior. Superior just looking to force the final shield, and I will definitely commit the shield, as a Frenzy Plant would easily KO. In comes Low Kicks. Low Kicks, unfortunately my Aura Wheel is Dark type here, but it will still do a lot of damage. So the Aura Wheel actually does get shielded by the opponent. I'm now back with my Electric Aura Wheel, and the opponent, just unfamiliar with the Mon since it didn't come out, didn't know the counts, and we get the 1-hit KO with the Electric type Aura Wheel, and we're able to take the win. Speaking of low kicks, we've got it in the next match here. And this is a great lead for Morpeko. Morpeko, I'm just going to go straight for the Electric Aura Wheel, as Morpeko has a very big attack stat. So if they try and call a Psychic Fangs, they just get fully one-shot. In comes Quagsire, and I'm going to pivot out into the Shadow Kanto Marowak. Shadow Kanto Marowak does surprisingly fine into the Quagsire. I believe at even energy, the Shadow Kwak actually wins the 1 shield, which is an unbelievable stat, but I have seen it play out that way at regionals. Shadow Marowak is just built different. Here, I'm able to make another Bone Club. The Shadow Marowak putting in so much work, grabbing the final shield from the opponent. In comes the Moltres, and my opponent is going to switch out into Tentacruel. Now, I could stay in and Brave Bird, but this, again, I cannot stress enough, is the Morpeko show. So look at this. I think this is the best demonstration of the form change mechanic. So I'm going to build up to the double Aura Wheel. They have a Water type, and they have a Ground type. So we use Electric move on the Water type. It switches to a Dark move for the Ground type, and now we just get to KO them with neutral damage. This is the coolest mod they have ever released. Oh my goodness. We again lead into a Clodsire. Terrible spot to be in. Opponent is going to bring in Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, honestly not what I was hoping to see here. Like, the main thought process is, if I'm able to lure out something like an Azumarill, the Shadow Kanto Marowak can win the 2 shield versus Azumarill. It's one of the reasons why Shadow Marowak is just absurdly strong. Here, my opponent is going to overfarm, and I overfarm as well, and we both end up playing to the CMP tie. Rock Slide is going to land, and that will set up a very nice farm down for Morpeko. Energy lead on Morpeko does go quite a long way. I'm going to bring in Morpeko. Opponent is going to pivot, and they're going to bring in the Clodside. That's honestly a really nice play by my opponent. They do not want to surrender that farm because they know that if Morpeko gets an energy lead, things can get out of hand quickly. And speaking of getting out of hand, that's a Stone Edge. That is really, really unfortunate. I'm going to fire off this Brave Bird. It ends up being a CMP tie again. The Brave Bird barely does not KO, and I just have to let this go. The Moltres has done its job. I have to trust in Morpeko. I'm going to look to overfarm a lot of energy, and here I just miscount. That's entirely my fault. I should have gone for the CMP tie with the Psychic Fangs, and in the back is Machamp. And this is tough. I have a lot of energy though. Psychic Fangs bait, I get the shield. Now they're debuffed. I'm a dark type, so I am gonna go for the Psychic Fangs again, hoping they are gonna shield, but they let it go. No, they actually survived that, and I'm too glassy. I can't get the farm down, and we will lose the game. Terrible lead in the next match, leading into the mud-slapping Grimer. Opponent is gonna counter switch into the Shadow Marowak with a Greninja, and this is not a good response, because Marowak can just double shield and farm Greninja all the way down. Look at this. Greninja just too frail. So it is a CMP tie that I lose. My opponent really wants me to CMP tie, but I'm just not going to let that happen. I'm more than happy to shield up, fully farm down, and now I have switch advantage, and their Mud Slapper is going to be on the Moltres, which is great news for me. Opponent, they're thinking about it. They're going to bring in the Grimer. Grimer, I have back-to-back Bone Clubs here. Bone Club is going to land. I get a farm down. I exit with energy. In the back is going to be their own Galarian Moltres, and I'm going to fire off the Rock Slide. They have to let this go because an Aura Wheel would do more. And then I just bring in Morpeko. Morpeko going for the Aura Wheel. They're going to have to shield, and this is where we see how frail this Pokemon is. Because, of course, I am a complete wall to energy from the Moltres. Moltres, Ancient Power, Brave Bird. I resist both of those. Look at how much damage that Brave Bird does. This thing cannot take a hit to save its life. But I can bring in my own Moltres, farm down theirs, and take the win. Terrible lead, Morpeko into Machamp. Opponent is going to respond with Galarian Moltres. I'm going to overfarm here. If they Brave Bird, that's fine, because I'm going to get massive farm on Morpeko, but they Ancient Power. That's actually worse for me, because now I'm not going to get nearly as much farm. I can force a shield, but they can probably either get the shield back or remove most of my available HP with a Brave Bird. After landing the Rock Slide, Bone Club will KO, so I can go for the Bone Club. Opponent is going to get the farm down. In comes Morpeko, and I think I just have to let this go. I have seen that Machamp. Machamp is going to be a big problem for me. Opponent is going to bring in Clodsire. I'm going to bank an Aura Wheel, and I'm going to bring in Moltres. Opponent going to send in Machamp, and this just does not feel like a winning endgame for me. They have so much energy on the Machamp. Even if I call a Cross Chop just hits way, way too hard. I will be firing off this Ancient Power. Ancient Power is going to be shielded up because at this point, honestly, they're pretty much in Ancient Power range. And the only way that I can see myself winning this is if I call a Cross Chop, so I let it go. The Cross Chop does so much damage, though. I really have to hope that this Ancient Power is able to knock out. The Ancient Power does not knock out. And when they bring in Clodsire, I have to bring in Morpeko. Wait, I can win this. If I can make it to a Dark-type Aura Wheel, I can actually win this game. Morpeko, we can't get there. Oh no, that is heartbreaking. I fall one Thunder Shock short of getting to the move that I would need to get the win, but for being triple hard countered, I will take that. We hop into the final match, leading into another Machamp. I'm going to save switch into the Shadow Marowak, and the opponent responds with a Shadow Girafarig. Again, these are practice battles since the Great League isn't available right now. A lot of people chose to run Meta. Some, obviously in this instance, did choose to run Spice. But when I see a Psychic type, I think this is time for Morpeko to farm. They go for the Psychic Fangs. I'm going to respect the potential Trailblaze, as Giraffe's attack stat and Morpeko's defense stat means that I would take a lot of damage. They wisely go for a Psychic Fangs, and they're going to bring in Machamp. And you know what? Let's fire off this Aura Wheel. Aura Wheel would cleanly KO. They're going to shield. I'm now boosted, and I switch forms. I make it to the Psychic Fangs, and I win the CMP tie over Machamp. That's how high of a tag this Pokemon has. That is barely not going to KO. It's the CMP tie, and from here, Galar Moltres up a shield beats most anything. So I'm just going to trust in the Moltres in the back. Holy spice, they've got the Galarian Articuno. So maybe I could have shielded Morpeko, tried to sweep with it, but a shield up Moltres just felt a lot safer. We get the world's most unnecessary boost, but we're able to take the win. Now that I've tried it out, I'm going to give a thorough review of Morpeko. First off, this form change mechanic, the coolest thing that's been added to Go Battle League in absolute ages. The Mon's typing stays the same. It's always Electric Dark. The difference is going to be that any charge move that's thrown, Aura Wheel is going to change typings. When it's in its full belly form, when it's like a little yellow guy, then it is going to be the electric type. So the nice thing is the move typing does correspond with the Pokemon's color. So that way you have a bit of a visual guide as to what charge move is being thrown your way. PV Poke has it ranked, I believe, 190. And that's not a good rank for the Open Great League. It is very, very frail. There's going to be certain mons that it's going to struggle against, but genuinely, I think it's far, far better than that PV Poke ranking shows. Like most glass cannons, it's going to be a difficult mon to use. It's going to very much reward aggressive gameplay in terms of farming up energy, and it's going to reward very precise energy management and counts, being able to overfarm, play to the CMP ties that you're going to win because you have such a high attack stat. Is it top meta in the Great League? To me, no. But it's an incredible anti-meta pick, and I could see people having a lot of success with it in the Open Great League, as well as the Play Pokemon Show 6 Pick 3 formats. I don't think it's going to be a must-have Pokemon, but it's probably the most fun Pokemon in the Open Great League. I just had an absolute time and a half trying out this Pokemon. It was incredibly, incredibly fun. And the way to get it, which I don't think I mentioned earlier, you can get it via Go Battle League encounters, or there's a research task that is win 2 raids. So the best way to do it if you're doing the research task is wait until you find 3 of those win 2 raid tasks, and then just do 1 raid one day, 1 raid the next day. Congratulations, you have 3 Morpeko. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.